planned for this evening, a new exercise that we're introducing into our member socials, and that is the sponsor spotlight. So we realized throughout our board discussions and our planning session this year that we don't know enough about our sponsors as a chapter. We want to get to know them better. We want to know why their involvement with Conscious Capitalism runs so deep and true. And here tonight we have Jordan Lemming from First United Bank, who's going to answer some questions for us, going to share a little bit about First United Bank's long-term involvement with conscious capitalism at the national level and here in our Dallas chapter as well. Can we get a huge round of applause for Jordan? Bigger than that, yes!
Hello, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you all for coming here. I just appreciate y'all very much. And I know, Chase, we're going to do a little back and forth, but I can start off by sharing a little bit about what First United, how we got involved in conscious capitalism to begin with. So in 1990, it's worth noting, so our CEO, Greg Massey, joined the bank. So this was a family-owned, faith-based bank that's been around now for 125 years this year. And with that being said, when Greg came into the bank, he knew that this was something special. This was different, and we wanted to take financial well-being into a different approach, and we wanted to take a holistic approach. And so when we talked about that, we got introduced to conscious capitalism. With conscious capitalism, the value of this is that the approach is a conscious one, that you're aware of your surroundings, you're aware of stakeholders, you're aware of people, how your organization impacts the greater good. And that was our focus. And so it became Kismet. Before we even knew we were conscious capitalism, we knew we were doing it. And then once we understood that, it was everything to us. So we've been involved now with Conscious Capitalism for several years. We're so incredibly proud to not only be sponsors, but also to be active members, with our focus really being on, like I said, that holistic approach. So that's the background.
Your question. Okay, so it looks like you covered a little bit about the lore of conscious capitalism, their involvement with First United Bank. I wanted to talk a little bit about what today, so conscious capitalism has changed since it was founded in the early 20-teens. What today do you find most compelling, and how have you incorporated those tenets within your business? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So I think in order to speak to how we incorporate conscious capitalism into our work, I first have to introduce myself and the work that I do. I am our Spend Life Wisely ambassador. It's a very fun title, but essentially means that my job is to take care of our community and our employees. My job is simply that, and no more, no less. Our focus is on loving people, and so that right there in and of itself is how we dedicate to it. But on top of that, we actually have a stakeholder model ourselves. So this stakeholder approach that conscious capitalism has, we do too. In fact, we actually created our own graphic that is really rooted in this idea that our purpose and values are at the base of everything for our stakeholder model. So you imagine, if you can picture in your mind, a tree, right? And at the base there is purpose and values. That's the ground, that's the roots, the soil of what we do every single day. And then beyond that, you have all of our 5 stakeholders, everything from community to employees, shareholders, and beyond. And that really is our approach. But then on top of that, as a final thing, so I could go on, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, is one of the many ways that we, I think, really try to focus on community and focus on our people is the idea that if we're talking about our employees, in every single meeting that we have, we start with our purpose and values. Our purpose being to inspire and empower others to spend life wisely. It's not just financial well-being, it's also health and wellness, personal and professional well-being. So we root ourselves in that in everything that we do. And a lot of that has to do thanks to conscious capitalism. They've been a huge cheerleader for us being able to figure out what that looks like, identify our purpose, and live it out every day.
Right. So I'm hopeful that you haven't already talked about the book program, have you? This is one of my favorite things about walking into First United, other than their stunning buildings, is the book program. So I hope maybe you'll share a little bit with us about that. And then if there is one message that you would like to impart to our chapter members about the services that First United offers, or the impact that they're looking to create in the community on a national scale, because First United is a national company, we'd love to hear that as well.
So to first address the books. One of the things that we were really mindful of, going back to that purpose-driven approach, that conscious approach, was that when you walk into a bank, you often, I think, can feel quite sterile, can feel quite cold, not very inviting, and that was not what we wanted. So instead, we took a different approach, and when you walk into a bank, you're going to see more of a living room style, library style space. We offer free resources, free books for anybody that walks in. You do not have to bank with us. That is not our focus. Our focus is on taking care of people. So when you walk into any First United Bank, you're going to see those 4 pillars that I mentioned: the health and wellness, personal growth, faith, and financial well-being. And under each of those, there's going to be a book that you're allowed to take for free. It's not a rental. You take it, and our only ask is that you give it to someone after you're done. Share the resource, share the love. So that, I think, is the first one. I just love that. And then my parting thing, the thing that I would say to take away, for members and future members, I've met a couple tonight, is that conscious capitalism to me is a holistic approach, right? So this is the goal in my mind, what I became so passionate about when I came here to these chapter events, is that we are talking about things that are real and tangible. We are all here trying to figure out how we can be a force for good in a capitalistic world where we still do things that are good for our organization and still create a profit while also doing good in the community, which can happen and is possible. And so if that's the case, how do we do that? That's what this is for. This is for us to be able to brainstorm together, to talk about ideas together, to gather around cue cards and really actually have meaningful conversation. So my takeaway to you is to lean in. Actually, I think that has been something that has been really impactful for me. It's changed the way that we approach our work, changed the way I approach my life. So yeah, I think that's mine.
Thank you, Jordan.